Running Aces Casino and Racetrack is the Twin Cities' premier choice for exciting entertainment, 24/7 gaming and dining, monthly comedy shows, and $1 blackjack with no commission or ante, making it the most player-friendly casino around. Trout Air Tavern at Running Aces offers Minnesota-inspired handcrafted dishes with locally sourced ingredients and the trout that made the area famous. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, 25 minutes north of downtown. Visit runaces.com. Running Aces, your night out is waiting. TCL is a proud sponsor of the 1500 ESPN studios. TCL, America's fastest growing TV brand. Minnesota Vikings, the NFL, football, yeah, football. Welcome to Purple Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Purple Podcast. Matthew Coller here, and joining me from the Ringer, Ubering, I believe, at this very moment, Robert Mays. Robert, how are you?
I'm doing well, buddy. I do not own a car, and I have to go to the grocery store to buy Friendsgiving groceries. So this is my option. Can't really walk, can't do anything else. So I've been limited to this.
Now, I think we talked another time, if Purple Podcast listeners remember, about your car challenges and the difficulties of getting a license in Illinois.
I've succeeded in that. I have a driver's license.
Oh, okay. Just no car.
So that is nice because the last time I saw you, I actually was in Minneapolis and I got in a car accident for the first time in about 10 years.
How did that happen?
Just some shenanigans in a parking lot. Near the facility, so nothing terrible. It was just annoying more than anything else. So,
but there's nothing near the facility.
The expenses are not worth it.
There's nothing near the facility. It's like just land.
I think I was in a gas station parking lot or something.
Man.
I honestly can't even remember.
That's tough. Well, we're all sorry about that. I would have guessed merging would have been where you would have done
that's probably one. Well, considering all the traffic or the construction you guys have going on up there, that would be the normal answer. But no, fortunately, it was much more boring than that.
It has only gotten worse since you left.
Good. I'm so glad.
Robert, Bears Vikings. It was nice to see you during training camp, but a lot has changed since we have last talked about the Minnesota Vikings. And you're there in Chicago, and you follow the Bears pretty closely. So I wanted to have you on for this. Let me start with RPOs, because when you were in Minneapolis / St. Paul, I was reading your work, some conversation about RPOs with John DeFilippo and a number of other people around the league. And I brought it up earlier this week on the podcast, just how it hasn't really taken over the league, but this team is one where you need to keep an eye on it because Mitch Trubisky will actually run. So tell me about kind of where you think RPOs went throughout this season, if they're being used as much as you thought, or if they've morphed as much as you thought, and how Chicago uses them.
They've morphed a little bit in the sense that I think, more teams are going away from the version that the Eagles were using, where they were trying to throw those pop passes like slants back into the void left back side. And the Bears use them somewhat like that. You'll see Trubisky exploit the middle of the field with them, but they also use a ton of those kind of the slant bubble RPO. Mm-hmm. So they'll have Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen at the same time. They'll have Cohen in the slot, and Cohen will run a bubble, and then they'll use the running play back with Jordan Howard coming the other way. Excuse me. As I went to a concert last night, and I sound absolutely horrendous. The Bears use them in that way, and it's really just a numbers game. Like the Bears, for the most part, it's almost all pre-snap RPOs, and a majority of them are, and it's underrated, kind of this idea that you're making this choice after the snap happens. The Eagles did it somewhat last year, but almost all of these decisions are dictated by how many guys are in the box before the ball is snapped, and the Bears use those primarily.
And with Matt Nagy coming from Andy Reid, I think you always wonder, like, is Matt Nagy going to be like Dave Grohl and start his own band and then make, like, good music? Or is he going to be like an Andy Reid cover band and have it not really be the same? What do you think it's been for him? Because obviously they've had a heck of a lot more success than John Fox. But I think like you and I probably could have gotten together and just like used our Madden offense and had more success than John Fox. So what?
Most likely.
What?
I also really enjoyed the pot shots that Zimmer was taking at him this week. The idea that it's no longer 2 yards in a cloud of dust, and it's just how it's clearly, it's not even a veiled shot at what their offense was under John Fox, which I really appreciate. Mike is not one to mince words, and I've always really loved that about him. You may not, but I don't have to deal with it every day.
Oh, so, no, I do love
okay.
it. But sometimes I'm just like in the crosshairs there. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, but
I'm far enough away from it where it's not an actual threat to my life or my happiness.
Oh,
so
no.
I get to enjoy it from
Trust
safe
me.
distance, which I really appreciate.
1,000 times out of 1,000, I will take the coach who every once in a while craps on a question of mine, who actually gives real answers and says stuff, as opposed to the culture monsters that we have invented for younger coaches who just want to spew nonsense at you for every day for a full season. I would really get tired of that. So I will.
No, it'd be awful. I know you definitely have the better of those two worlds. I 100% agree.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
It's always, we're getting off topic here, and I'll get back there in a second. But it's always the guys who had to wait really long time to get their job. Like Bruce Arians and Mike Zimmer, why do they care? Like, what's the worst that can happen to Mike Zimmer? He gets fired and he retires with all the money he just made over the last 5 years. Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care whatsoever. Those are always the guys that are willing to kind of shoot from the hip, which I always appreciate.
Well, I think
but anyway,
I like this topic. So I'll circle back to Matt Nagy, I promise. But what I like about Zimmer is that he came from Parcells and he worships Parcells, so he thinks that that's the way you do it. That, like, you just say whatever you want to say, and if someone has a problem with it, they can buzz off. And he actually has learned, though, he's gotten a little more savvy with it, because he was so aggressively honest at times that it would manipulate players if he was, like, too forward with something. Like, say, Anthony Barr tends to coast was the famous one that sort of got some people frustrated, you know? And he's gotten much better at actually turning it around on us. So now we get more of his honest aggression toward us and how he hates everything we're doing, but less of it toward his own players. And it's been a really interesting dance to watch, because he hasn't toned down the honesty. He's just sort of redirected it.
That makes total sense. All right. So getting to the Matt Nagy thing, I feel like it's not a Led Zeppelin it's not an Andy Reid cover band. It's like Jimmy Page's music after he left Led Zeppelin. The bones of it are still very similar. It's still Jimmy Page, but you can see the originality that's built in there. I mean, there's some elements where you see it and it's wholesale lifted from what Andy Reid's offense was. But then there's other stuff, the route combinations, some of the wheel routes they've run out of trips formations, that it's stuff that's like, all right, I mean, he's clearly putting his own wrinkles on this. So I've enjoyed it. I mean, it's really impossible to argue with the results that they've had. You have a Bears offense that's currently 7th in passing DVOA with Mitch Trubisky. 7th. It's bizarre to watch. I mean, they've led by at least 2 scores for longer than they've trailed this season.
Wow.
It's gone as well as it possibly could have. And I don't know how good this team actually is, but I do know that they're pretty much the best version of who they could be, given what their personnel is.
Okay, so this is really interesting to me, because I like to look at the Pro Football Focus stats. I'm sure you do too. And they grade Mitch Trubisky slightly worse than Case Keenum so far this year, which is, I'm sure, like, mind-blowing to most people, but they're only grading the throws usually, right? So what is your take on how Mitch Trubisky has actually played versus how much is Matt Nagy being a really smart football man?
I think he's gotten better, and I think his last couple games, this last game he played against Detroit was probably the best game I've seen him play this year. And he's had a couple of those games where I've sat there and said, all right, this looks really good. But there are also moments where he just drives you insane. I mean, there's been so many moments this year where he's missing throws. There's one throw he constantly misses, and it's Taylor Gabriel coming right to left out of the slot on a play action throw where he's always wide open. And Trubisky's just airmailed that so many times. And you go back and you watch the game this week. There was a throw he hit. Dan Orlovsky actually did a great job of breaking it down on Twitter, as he usually does. And it was a throw that Trubisky hit up the seam to Allen Robinson.
Saw that.
And it was really based on the coverage on the play. It was cover 3 buzz coverage, where the safety was going to kind of be sitting in that hole to the field side to Trubisky's right. and he just put it on a dime right to Allen Robinson. And I feel like his accuracy was his greatest strength in college. And then he was an accurate passer at times last year. But then you saw what was happening over the first half of this season, and he's airmailing these throws, and you're thinking, what's going on? I mean, now we're getting new problems with the old problems. Mm-hmm. And I honestly do think that it was a lack of decisiveness. When he's not really ripping those throws because he's not sure about them, his feet become a mess. And then he starts putting balls high. It's never low. It's always high. And that's a problem, especially over the middle. And I just feel like now, 9 games into this tenure with Nagy, he's so much more comfortable with where the ball's supposed to go quickly in the down that you're not seeing that stuff anymore. It's an immensely complicated offense. I mean, it's like what Zimmer said today. I think they had 800 plays. And throwing that to a guy that only had 13 college starts, that played in an offense we could have devised last year, it was always going to take time. And maybe this is just me and my Bears love, and I'm trying to rationalize this, but it honestly does feel like there's progress being made. It's going in the right direction.
And when we talk about the difference from last year to this year, Kendall Wright had 59 catches. Kendall Wright could not make the Vikings, and Chad Beebe is getting playing time for the Vikings now as a wide receiver. And Kendall Wright could not make possible. The team. Are you serious?
It's the best example possible if you want to know how much their pass catchers have turned over. It's one of those things. You're watching this entire season, and they succeed with Allen Robinson for 2 games. And then they drop him back in, and you're like, oh yeah, Allen Robinson is amazing.
Right.
And he's just a guy on that team. They don't need to force feed him targets because Taylor Gabriel's been really good. Trey Bennett's been really good. Anthony Miller's come on in the last 3 weeks to the point where it's like, wow. Their 4th receiver is better than the number 1 guy they had last year. And when you combine that with a very talented offensive play caller and an ascending quarterback, to where he's ascending, I'm not sure, but it's definitely the arrow's going up. It leads to this. It leads to an offense that is actually fun, that actually is something you want to see. It's innovative. It puts their guys in the best positions to win. And that's just not something we're used to seeing in Chicago.
Lucky's 13 Pubs has you covered for the best game day experience this football season. Tons of TVs, legendary appetizers, amazing fresh half-pound burgers, handcrafted sandwiches, and a wide variety of other pub favorites. The drink menu is awesome, too. Huge selection of tap beer, handcrafted cocktails, and the best Bloody Marys in town. Seriously, these Bloodies are awesome. Try the Bacon Bloody, the Jalapeno Bloody, the Mother Mary, or just get a flight and try them all. Plus, Lucky's 13 celebrates Sunday Fun Day. Happy hour all day long on Sunday, every Sunday. Events and prize giveaways during games, too. Lucky's 13 has locations in Bloomington, Burnsville, Mendota, Plymouth, and Roseville. Having people over for the game? Call ahead to Lucky's and order some of those legendary apps, and they'll be ready to bring home when you get there. It's football time at Lucky's 13 Pubs. Find them online at luckys13pub.com. luckys13pub.com. It's the most wonderful time of the year, football time. And Lucky's 13 Pubs has you covered for the best game day experience. luckys13pub.com.
So now, you already said that you're not sure how good they are, but I want to ask you anyway, how good are they? Because they don't have an impressive win, really, and the Lions, oh my gosh, they don't want to play football anymore. And
it's starting to fall apart.
Yeah, pretty bad. Once the coach criticizes a reporter's posture, it's over. The season is over. You're not even halfway through your first year. But I can't figure this out about either team, really, because the Vikings don't have a win over anyone with a above 500 record either.
I'm of 2 minds about it. I feel like even if you're not beating really good teams, you should destroy bad teams.
Right.
That's what good teams do. Point differential and all this stuff, I know it's not the most important thing, but we've seen year after year that Pythagorean wins tend to matter in defining who you actually are as a team. If you outperform your point differential in terms of wins and losses, you tend to regress. And that's why I think good teams destroy the teams that are worse than them. And if you look what's happened over the last 3 weeks, that's exactly what the Bears have done. I mean, they have taken care of business against the Jets, the Bills, and the Lions. And that Lions game, the final was 36-22. That is not a 36-22 football game. I mean, I'll tell you that right now. It was a demolishing. The only game that I think they played this year where they did not play as well as they could against the competition they were facing was that game against Miami. Mm-hmm. It was just a bizarre football game where the Dolphins were throwing I mean, Brock Osweiler had, I believe, 350 yards in that game. 273 of them came after the catch. The Bears just could not tackle. I mean, it was just bizarre to watch. They're throwing all these wide receiver screens and quick passes. And Eddie Jackson and Adrian Amos, who've had excellent seasons, and Bryce Callahan as well, especially as tacklers, just all over the place. So that's the only fluke game. Outside of that, I feel like the performances they've had are the team that they are. And that team, I believe, can win 10 games in the division. I honestly do.
See, I think they were just lucky to not face the Matt Barkley Bills. I think that's what.
Yes, that's exactly right. But that's the exact type of game I'm talking about. Is the Lions got beat by the Bills. So we can say they haven't beaten anyone, but they took care of business against the teams that you should beat when other teams in that division didn't necessarily. I mean, the Vikings lost. If you look at what the Packers did against the Bills, it was miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, they were so frustrated. They won that game by a couple scores. The sounds of Chicago here, Metro train going by. They won that game by a couple of scores, but Rodgers was furious after, and rightfully so. They did not play well.
And they do have a great defense. I mean, it's an honestly legit defense that ruined the Vikings game plan because they kept making Kirk Cousins fumble. So, putting up 41 on them is pretty good.
They do, and I'll tell you what. The Bears also have a legit defense.
Well,
with Mack back, it's unbelievable. You know what? It reminds me, not schematically, but the reason they're having success reminds me of Minnesota last year.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears have missed 2 games from Mack, and that's really it. And he only missed those 2 games because they wanted to get him healthy. It's not as if he was seriously hurt. They just knew they could beat the Jets and the Bills without him, so they put him on the bench. I mean, for the most part, they've gotten every snap from every relevant player except from a couple games of Mack, and then Bilal Nichols, missed a game, and Danny Trevathan missed a half. And when when that's what you're talking about, you're really nitpicking. You've gotten very lucky health-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened with the Vikings. Now, Kirk Cousins has been under pressure a lot this season, 40% of the time, but it seems like in a game like this, that could be above average against the Bears. What has been your takeaway? And I appreciate your tweet a few weeks ago about the Vikings offensive line being a little bit of a problem as we were projecting in training camp. But what has been your take on the Vikings offense with Kirk Cousins, or even if we get a full look at what he can be because the offensive line has been so bad?
It's a combination of stuff, right? It's losing a guy like Nick Easton in the preseason, and then the shuffling that results from that. I believe Mike Remmers, his agent, was tweeting about this a couple weeks ago, just that Mike Remmers has had half a season at guard, and if he's playing well, that's a miracle, which is true. I mean, we just assume these guys can bounce from spot to spot, but they can't. And I think it's a combination of, 1, having to move guys around because of season-ending type injuries, and 2, injuries that are limiting guys that are actually playing. Pat Elflein's been on the field, but has he played like he did last year? No. I mean, he just doesn't look like the same guy. He's not all the way back yet. And Riley Reif, even when he's been on the field, has been on the injury report constantly. Mm-hmm. So that's how you get a disaster situation like it's been for them. You lose a couple of guys, or you lose one guy and another guy moves over, and then and that makes you downgrade like 3 spots. I mean, think about having to move Remmers to guard and then moving Hill to tackle. You get worse twice instead of only getting worse once. And you have guys that are not playing their natural position. And when you combine that with dudes that are hurt but still playing, that's what you get. I mean, this is the exact result.
So, and I think that's limited what John DeFilippo can do, because they are one of the shortest air yards passing offenses in the league. And I wrote about aggressiveness and whether they should try to go down the field more often. They definitely should try to throw into coverage more often when it's Diggs and Thielen, because they're so good on contested catches. But opportunities to throw down the field are limited when a guy can't run a complicated route 20 yards down the field if he's got this offensive line. So I think with both Cousins and DeFilippo that it's hard to see the same Cousins that we saw in 2016 when he had that amazing offensive line in Washington.
I think he's been incredible this year. I honestly do. I mean, you have a couple of mistakes, but even that Saints game, I mean, that interception's on Diggs. The moments that he's been bad, I think that you take those considering how good he's been. There's so many throws he's been able to put on a guy down the field while having to change his arm angle because there was a dude falling into him. just tons of that this year. I watched Kirk Cousins in Washington, but I watch more NFC North football than I do NFC East football, even though I cover the entire league. And I've just been blown away by how good he's been in stretches. So I don't think his numbers will be the same because they can't be just based on infrastructure alone. But I think the quarterback he's been has been just as good or better.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with him because he has been amazing when it comes to down the field throws. Just absolutely incredible. He's maximized the talents of Thielen and Diggs, especially Thielen so far this year. He's the top receiver in the league. At the same time, it's like the catastrophic mistakes have been an issue, though, you know, like,
yeah.
and it's kind of very Kirk Cousins-like, and maybe one of the things that frustrated Jay Gruden in Washington was, you know, last year I was watching a Washington game where they're driving and they're in the red zone, and he gets pressured and just hurls the ball to nobody, and it gets picked off, and it's like he does stuff like that, you know, it's like he has these sort of moments where he blacks out and just does something that you just can't figure out. And I think that's
Which
happened.
Which game are you thinking of this year?
Well, the Buffalo game for one. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's for him, it's guys throw interceptions, right? That happens. But for him, his biggest issue has always been he's going to throw interceptions because of decision making, but he also puts the ball on the ground. And when you combine those two things, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but he's got to be up there in terms of fumbles over the last 5 seasons.
Number one.
If he's not number one, he's in the top 3.
No, he's number 1.
Yeah.
Since 2015. Yeah. Well, there was also the interception against, I think it was Arizona, where he gets pressured and just throws it up into nobody. Actually did it against the Lions too, like where it was just a bootleg, he's rolling out. They read it a little bit, pressure him, and just lets it fly, and it gets picked off. And it kind of happens a lot. But you're right. It's really the combination of those two that would make you nervous. And I think that's the way that a lot of Vikings fans have described Cousins to me, just in you know, callers calling in and people tweeting, is really that he's an excellent talent. He just makes you nervous the whole game because you're not sure if he's going to make a catastrophic mistake.
You'd much rather have Kirk Cousins than Case Keenum.
Oh, no question.
I mean, it's not even a conversation.
Yeah, no debate.
When I was talking to Rick Spielman before the year, we were kind of discussing their quarterback decision. And the tone with which he said it, I'm sure he said this to you guys as well, is just that you don't get a guy like Kirk Cousins in free agency.
Right.
I mean, whatever the money he's making is, that guy does not become available. And I totally agree with him. And a guy that does become available is always going to have some warts. But his talent alone, you cannot sign that quarterback in free agency. Right. And when you have the chance to, I think you have to just put on the full court press and see if you can make it happen.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that we sort of go around on is it was absolutely the right decision, but can he win a Super Bowl? You know what I mean? Like when you paid $84 million, is he good enough to beat Drew Brees in a playoff game? And I think this team probably has too many flaws compared to New Orleans to be able to do that, don't you?
Or last year's team. Or last year's Vikings team. I mean, Case Keenum almost won a Super Bowl with this team.
Yeah.
So that's what can Kirk Cousins win a Super Bowl? Absolutely. It doesn't matter how good of a quarterback you are. You still need some infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Some. And when you look at the offensive lines that Drew Brees and Tom Brady have, I know they get rid of the ball quickly, but they also have 2 great pass blocking offensive lines.
Yeah.
So really I believe that truly great quarterbacks can often overcome some of their circumstances. That's why I still think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league, because he's been overcoming them for like 5 straight years with Mike McCarthy. But I also think that tier of quarterback is incredibly small. Mm-hmm. I think it's maybe 1, 2, or 3 guys. Everyone else needs help of some kind, whether it's schematic or personnel. And he's gotten the schematic help. I think John DeFilippo's done an excellent job. He has not gotten the personnel help. The receivers are very good, but when your offensive line is collapsing on almost every single play, it's impossible to be successful at the highest level.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think when they get to the playoffs, assuming they do, that is probably the undoing. And then I could just shout the name Will Hernandez during the postgame, or end of year press conference. Will Hernandez! Anyway, Robert, awesome stuff. I read your article on jet sweeps that you posted recently. It's pinned to your Twitter at Robert Mays. So check that out. I see that you've written about Andrew Luck. I have not read that yet, but
I wrote about Andrew Luck today.
Awesome.
It's very much that infrastructure for quarterbacks conversation we were just having. So
I got an argument with someone from Seattle about Andrew Luck before the season, because I was thinking with Frank Reich that he could maximize his full potential and be in like a top 5 quarterback. What's your take on that?
I totally agree. That's pretty much what I just wrote. I think that what Reich has done for him, I think he has a chance to be better in this stretch with Reich than he ever was before. And if you thought he was really good before, then I think he has a chance to be even better now. He hasn't gotten sacked since October 5th.
Wow.
He's getting sacked on 2.7% of their dropbacks. This is a guy that was pressured on 278 dropbacks in 2016. That led the league. That was more than Russell Wilson. He got sacked 41 times that year. He's gotten sacked 10 times in 9 games this year. I mean, it's night and day. And when you consider the fact that he doesn't exactly shy away from contact, that offense and that downfield passing design was a recipe for disaster.
Right.
And now you have a coach that is purposefully in every way trying to insulate and protect him. And it's made all the difference. I think they have a chance to be fantastic over the next 3 or 4 years as Chris Ballard has more time to build up that defense. I really do.
Yeah, and Quentin Nelson is a fun man to watch at guard.
It's been perfect. And I know a number 6 overall is a lot to pay for a guard, but that combined with getting Braden Smith in the second round and being able to just pop him at right tackle, that it's a franchise-altering draft for them. And I wrote it today in the Luck thing. It's amazing what happens when you switch out a general manager that trades first-round picks for Trent Richardson with a guy who trades down to get offensive and defensive linemen. Who would have thought that would have worked out?
Braden Smith, that sounds like a lineman who could have helped the Vikings, but isn't. Well, actually, Brian O'Neill has done pretty well stepping in. So
yeah, he's been fine.
I have to say, I do have to add that. It was just, when Mike Zimmer, after week 1, when Mike Hughes got an interception, said, you guys didn't want us to draft Mike Hughes. It was like, that's not exactly what we said, sir. Have you seen your offensive line?
That was that meme I made, where it was that guy looking meme. He was Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer are always going to be checking out the quarterback depth over the offensive line depth, always.
Yes, exactly. Well, all right, let me make one more lame joke, and then I will let you go. I was concerned about Frank Reich as a head coach because I thought he just might try to let the other team get up by 35 in every game. That would be his strategy.
That is a terrible joke, but I'm going to let you make it.
Okay, all right.
Are you going to be at the game on Sunday?
I will you?
I will be there. It's my first NFL game of the year because I can't go to anything but night games, and the Bears are not playing on Sunday night except for this. So that's I will be there. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I will see you then. I suggest everyone check out your work. Just follow you at Robert Mays on Twitter. Very awesome, always unique stuff, and very much in depth for you crazy football folks. And we will talk to you again on the Purple Podcast.
Till the tears run down from my eyes, Lord, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me somebody to love?
Alexa, play hits from Queen.
Okay.
Somebody to love.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. A snow and ice storm that slammed parts of the South is moving through Washington and up into New England. Most areas will only get an inch of snow or so, but Patrick Burke at the Weather Prediction Center says
places like Syracuse and then the Adirondacks in northern New York should pick up, again, 5 to 10 inches and maybe even in a couple spots up to a foot of snow.
They're trying to find 130 people still missing in the Northern California wildfire. 56 people have been confirmed dead. Evacuee Susan Caxonen is living in a tent shelter near a Walmart.
Shelter living or Walmart living this is like an immediate need situation, and everybody's being great, but I can't. It's going to rain soon. It's November. This isn't. It's not permanent. I don't know what we're going to do.
A federal judge is giving thousands of Florida voters until this weekend to fix their ballots if they haven't been counted due to mismatched signatures. I'm Rita Foley.